going to use some of these rub-on transfers from Dollar Tree. And they just peel right off of that paper backing. They are beautiful. They have a spring motif. We're going to use 2 of these little wooden boxes, just 1 for this transfer though. So I'm going to take little parts and sections of this 1 sheet to go all the way around this box. I started off using my Mod Podge squeegee, but it does not give enough pressure. So I do recommend that you switch to either there's these Cricut type tools at Dollar Tree. Get one of those. They're harder and it works better because you really want to make sure you burnish that down to get a nice finish where everything sticks, just like this. You can see it's hanging over just a little bit on the W, not a problem. You can press that down and just sand it right off. Pretty much it scrapes right away when you touch it. And I'm going to do that on the edges too, just to make it look like a stamp rather than a transfer. I love this little bicycle, very springy. Now I'm going to move to another part of the transfer, and you don't have to be concerned about it reaching all the way to the edges. I wanted to be sure that I could use this 1 transfer on the entire thing. So there are going to be some spots that look blank, but we're going to fill those in at the end. So if you start to raise it up slowly and you notice some is still stuck to the paper instead of on your project, just lay it back down and go ahead and apply a little more pressure. And then I'm just sanding it off like I did the rest of it. I'm going to move around to another section and keep going. So this box has 4 sides that you can see and a bottom and an open top. So we need 4 areas to cover this box, and I think that this looks great. I love these little wooden boxes from Dollar Tree. The color is already beautiful. The grain is gorgeous. I didn't feel the need to put any stain on it because honestly I don't know that you would be able to see all of the light colors if we used a dark stain. So this is fresh and light colored. I think it's very pretty. Moving on, we have enough here for another side. Don't be concerned if it tears or if there's some pieces that are kind of rough looking. It's just going to give it an aged look, and that is okay. That is fine. It's going to look beautiful and shabby chic and rustic. See, I'm taking this butterfly that had a little bit of damage, and I'm just taking one of those wings to put in a little empty spot on the bottom of the flowers. And then a word that was left over, I'm going to take that word and put it right there. But this is how it looks so far. And I'm going to find another piece that's on the transfer paper still and just rub that down on that side. And that's so simple. So very simple. You can use any transfers you like. So for the other box, we're going to use this old calendar from Dollar Tree. So if you still have your calendars and don't know what to do with them, pull them out. This particular one I love because of the flowers. So I'm going to take out July 22 and pull that calendar out, and then decide how much we're going to need to go on the box. So it's just under 3 inches, and I'm going to measure here on my paper on the illustrations right about 3 inches. I'm going to do one on the bottom, one in the middle, and one in the top. And this will give us an area and a little kind of guideline where we can put the ruler down and then make a nice clean line with a rotary cutter. Very simple. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side, and then you can do the bottom and the top as well if you would like. So you have a bigger choice, variety of which piece you want to use. Now, I'm using this dark gray because oftentimes when you have a lighter background and you put a calendar page down, you can see those black lines through it when you Mod Podge it. So if you go ahead and start off with a dark color or black, you won't be able to see that. Those lines will just disappear. So that's why I do this. I've done this method many times using the calendar pages, and this works great for me. I'll put a link down below of some videos that I have done with Dollar Tree calendars. You can get lots of projects, more than 12 projects out of one calendar. Okay, so I've cut a bunch of pieces, and I'm just looking to see which ones are going to be my favorite, the ones that I want to feature on this box. And these are the ones I'm going to use. And I have some matte Mod Podge. You can use whatever kind of Mod Podge you want. I won't be putting anything on the top. I'm just going to be using it underneath. And I'm going to kind of go with and against the grain in this box. I'm going to turn it upside down because I can center it better if I can see all the sides instead of just slapping it on the top and then trying to move it around and possibly tearing it. I just put it down like a puzzle piece with the intentional overhang, and you'll see how we fix that. So the squeegee works perfect for this project. You can see here we have extras on the edges, and we're just going to take that foam sanding block or whatever, you can use an emery board if you have it, and just kind of shear that off the edges, and you have a nice clean finish. You want to do that on the top, both sides, and also on your bottom. We're going to continue around and do the same thing. I don't use a ton of Mod Podge because I don't want bubbles and issues, and thankfully with this calendar paper I had no problem at all with bubbles, or you know how you get the little waves in the paper sometimes? No problem at all. And as you can see, you cannot see those dark lines underneath there at all. And this is how it looks when it is completed. Isn't that cute? Oh, and I did go down on the inside a little bit with that gray paint. So no need to do the bottom. Now I'm going to show you a very easy way to style these. I just have some of these were donated to me from my generous benefactor who donated all the supplies to my channel, and these were from, I believe, Michael's, and there are several different kinds that I have you'll be seeing in my projects, and I'm just taking two of my favorite colored ones and putting them down in these boxes so you can get an idea of how this would look. Going to use this as my project backing. This I got from the thrift store. It already had something written on it, and I couldn't get it off. So we're just going to go over it with some of the Dollar Tree's chalkboard paint. Very easy. My favorite flat brushes that I use all the time, and I'll show you why. Once you start putting your paint down, you can lay your brush on its side and get right in the curves, just like that. It makes it perfect. I love these brushes. So once it's done, you're going to let that dry and start working on your design. So I've gone over here, chosen a design on my Cricut, and then once it is cut out, I know you can't see it yet, but you will in a minute. I'm going to burnish this down with my little tool here and then begin to pull this off. So I'm just weeding it here. Now I'm going to put on my transfer tape, and then once I get it completely rubbed down there, I'm going to lift it off, and then we're going to put it right in the center. And I'm just kind of using the guides of those curves there so I know exactly where to put it. I love, love, love this. It's so pretty, and you cannot tell. Once I pull off my transfer paper, you cannot tell the difference between that and the color in the trim of this board, which is pretty amazing. But it comes away very easily from my transfer tape. Don't you love a good book or a good story? Yes, I love this stuff. So the next one we're going to do is going to be using this embroidery hoop, and then I have some of this cream colored burlap, and it's just a thick roll, and it is from burlapfabric.com. I'm just going to trim this off, and I'm going to fit it down in this embroidery hoop. This is easy to use. If you've ever used an embroidery hoop, you just use the little screw and the little hardware on the side to loosen it and tighten it. And then it stretches that fabric that's on the inside nice and flat. And there we go. Not hard to do. If you have any problems with your fabric kind of wrinkling, just flip it over and pull on it a little bit from the sides, and it'll go down in place just like it needs to be. All right. Once that is done and I feel like it is secure, I'm going to trim off all of that extra on the sides. Now I start off using little scissors because I thought that would be better since I have to get so close. So I got out my new scissors, and I'm just taking those and going around the edge. And they cut very nicely. Now I'm going slowly because I don't want to cut the wood. So now we're going to start on the floral part, and I'm just going to use some of these pretty pink flowers that I got from the thrift store, and all of this greenery is from the thrift store. I'm They're part of some, I think, bouquets that probably came from a high-end store because these are in very good condition. And I just cut them apart, and I'm just going to piece these together. And I've added some greenery and these beautiful little wine colored, they look, I don't know, I don't think they're roses, but they're very pretty, and they look nice with this bundle. I think the color combination's pretty. I'm going to use my zip ties here because we want to make sure that all of those little end pieces, even the little short end pieces, stay together. So it's almost like we're making the base of a swag. And like I said, the little ends are short, so we're going to have to do it in two places instead of in the center so that it reaches all of them. Just cut off your excess, and then you can work on the bundle of your bouquet just a little bit. This will very easily fit through the weave and then wrap around the arrangement and around the base. So that's what I've done there, and I'm just going to clip it off. I'm using this thinner ribbon now, which is the same color almost, but the weave is a little bit tighter than what we used in the embroidery hoop. And I'm just going to make a loop, and the first one is going to be 8 inches, and I'm going to do this 4 times. That's going to give us 4 little pieces on each end, or 4 loops on each end of the bow that I'm making. And I know you cannot see it here, and I apologize for that, but you get the gist. See that? And then I'm just going to find my center and pinch it together. This is it's not a thick ribbon, but it's kind of stiff, so you can see that it holds its form, and I love that. It's not something I'm used to dealing with ribbons. They're usually so soft they just lose their shape, but these worked great. So then you know how you do a bow. You're going to start fluffing, and there's going to be 4 on one side of the knot, 4 on the other side of the knot, and then you're going to have your little tails that are left there, and you can just trim those tails if you want to, whichever way you like to do it. Keep fluffing it out. You could use a different color if you wanted to for this, or you could use a wired ribbon if you wanted to. I want to add another bow in the center of this. It's the same kind of bow, but this time I only did it 2 times back and forth, and I used a 5-inch piece instead of an 8-inch piece. I just laid it right on the top, tied it, wrapped it around, tied it in the back. So it's a nice knot so that when we're pulling it out, it stays. Look how nicely it stands up there. That's really nice for a ribbon that doesn't have any wire. So you see a little ornament up there that says Blossom? That came from Dollar Tree. I think it looks really nice with what we have going on in the bottom, and it's a nice little sign to put on the top. You know, you don't have to have a cricket if you want to use something with words on it, or something that's really pretty just to adorn your arrangements or your signs, whatever you got going on. Think outside the box. So now I'm going to take 2 pieces that are about 19 inches long, and I'm going to make tails. I'm just going to overlap them, pinch them in the middle, and push them into a V. You can see how I did that there. I'm going to add some hot glue, and I've already got the bow glued down, and I'm going to add the hot glue and glue the tail down. Watch your fingers so you don't burn yourself. Be very careful. And I decided I want to put a loop in the middle, so I'm just going to take this little short piece of ribbon, it's about 3 inches long, fold it over on itself with some hot glue to make a ring, and then once it's cooled off, a little hot glue in the middle, and that'll finish off that bow. Now to attach this, I could have laid this down when I laid down that wide ribbon that's inside the embroidery hoop and just push this string through the frame, but this was an afterthought, so just go ahead and wrap it around the back. And then I put a little bit right across the top just to hold the string so that this doesn't try to rock back and forth. I'm not going to secure it down on the ribbon though. I'm going to leave it like it is, and if it's hung up nicely and securely, it won't move. So I decided to add just a little more of that same greenery right underneath the bow so that you can see it a little bit better, and just to add a little more height to this project so it doesn't look so, you know, side to side squatty. This elongated it just a bit. Then you can just take those tails, you can keep cut them at a shorter length. You can leave them long. You could do 2 different lengths. You can dovetail them. You can cut them. We're going to use some satin nickel spray, some white wax. We're going to use just some wipes that I have here to clean my little bird. And then the little bird, I've had him for a very long time. Used to use him in my Easter decor, but he's got some bangs. He's got a little wear on him, so I decided I'm going to do something a little bit different. I did an owl at Christmas time and absolutely loved it. Now you can just use a pick when they have a hole in them, stick them in some foam and spray paint them. Now once he's nice and dry, this is just 1 coat of paint. Once he's dry, this is how he looks. Very nice. Kind of looks like pewter a little bit. Then I'm going to take this white wax and my little chippy brush and just go all over this little bird. On his wings, on his feet, especially any place that there's any texture. And if you do a project, you want to use wax, the more texture, the better, or the more cracks and crevices, the better. The owl actually has a lot more detail in it than my little bird turned out, but I'm very happy with him. Alright, so now I'm just going to take a cloth and just start to wipe that off. I started off with a piece, it's like a little piece of scrap linen that I had, but this is definitely not what you want for this project. This is how he looks so far, and I have a mess on my hands because they're wet. So I went and got an extra towel, and I'm just going to start rubbing that off. I'm rubbing kind of with the grain of the feathers and the tail so that the white wax will stay in those low spots. You don't want to just completely rub it all back off. Just be careful of how, what direction you rub it in so that you leave some of that wax, because that's the point. Now doesn't he look aged and adorable? He is just too cute. He looks like a little metal bird. Or maybe even pewter. Kind of looks like pewter, doesn't it? He's very cute. Here's the box that we use the calendar on. If you like that watercolor look, perfect for you. Here is our Cricut project that we did. Here's our beautiful burlap wreath or hanger, whichever you want to call it. The other box that we did using the Dollar Tree rub-on transfers, the spring transfers. So we're going to start off with a little blue truck, and this came from Dollar Tree. He didn't have a box, he was all on his lonesome. I have some succulents, also from the Dollar Tree. These are really pretty pastels, and some of this greenery that everybody is loving. This pick and the pick below it came from a Michael's grab box, and then I have a variety of thrifted ribbons, some foam from Dollar Tree. We're going to start off by trimming that foam down so that it will fit in the bed of the truck. We're going to have something to put our flowers into so they don't just flop around. So we will put in some of this foam and it'll stay right where we put it. We're going to start by just pulling apart our picks. I love this frosted looking fern, it's really pretty. And it kind of coordinates with what we had going on in that little frosted pick from Dollar Tree. The greenery bouquet, I think is what they call it. I like to pull these things apart. It makes it easier for me to kind of visualize where I want everything to go. So I just start by taking things apart, especially in smaller pieces. Sometimes you have to trim it up, cut the wires down, cut off some of the limbs and pieces, but you'll see how we do it. Now I'm just going to look here and decide which one of these pieces I want to use, and you can see this is way too big. I still like it though, so I'm going to use this piece. I'm going to trim it down and put it right almost in the center in the back of the truck. That's going to be our tallest point, and then we're going to work around it. I don't want to use pieces that are too large because they're going to overwhelm the little truck and you won't be able to see it. So we just want to kind of accentuate. If you put your glue in first, then you can just put it on the bottom and plop your foam down right on top. I went to the back corner and I'm going to the other back corner, just trying to eyeball those and see if they're about the same. Then I'm going to go here in the front, right kind of toward the side, and start adding in greenery pieces here and there. I don't want this to look exactly symmetrical, but I am doing, one up, one down, trying to get a little balance without everything being matchy-matchy on the sides. This is more of a cottagey feel, so it has a little more of a wild flair. It's not really an organized style. Kind of like you maybe would see these if they were growing wild in nature. Now, if you cut down a pick, but you don't have the right size of stem underneath it or length of stem, you can cut off a piece from another floral or another pick and just use a little bit of wire and just attach it together and make a pick. Simple, right? I do that a few times in this project. So I'm going to add in my pinks now, my pretty little pink flowers. And you see, this is just way too big for what's going on with this truck. So I just cut it down, and I'm going to add a little piece of that wire, leftover wire pick, just like that. Now I have a nice little piece that's firm enough to push into the foam without making everything collapse. Because you know, if you try to put floppy plastic into that foam, it's just not going to work for you. So this fern to me was just way too big. It was out of balance. So I'm just going to trim it down. And with these plastic pieces, that's the beauty of it. You can just manipulate it and make it look exactly like you like it. So that's what I've done here, and made my own little pick the size that I needed it. I'm going to put that in there. And of course, always look at it from top, bottom, all sides to make sure that you have everything where it should be, that you don't have any holes or gaps in there. You want it to be nice and full. Alright, so now we're going to start with the little embellishments. So I've chosen these because I thought they would make cute little signs to kind of have a stake and be in the back of the truck. Almost like we're advertising that we're selling flowers from this truck. So I'm cutting these down. These calendars have so many good uses. You can use the little ones off the back. You can use the pages on the inside to make pieces. I've done so many videos with calendar pages. They just have the prettiest artwork. So I want to make this a little bit stronger, and it's just on regular, thin paper. So I'm just making it a little bit stronger, and I'm going to add a little pick to the back. And you can use whatever kind of pick you have. You can use one of your greenery picks if you'd like. This is what I had, so I'm going to go ahead and use this. I'm going to add some glue, and then I'm just going to cover the back, because initially I thought I just wanted to have a sign on one side. So this is what I would do for it. Now to embellishment, to embellish it, I am going to take this yellow and beige ribbon, make a little bow, and put on there. You can do top, bottom. You don't even have to do this if you don't want to. You can leave it off completely if you would like, but I like the cottagey feel of it. And I'm going to put it right in the center underneath the truck. So it's going to be glued to the sign rather than glued to the pick. And then I decided, let's take the other truck, or another one of the trucks, and put it on the back side. So now I have a double-sided sign. That was so simple, wasn't it? So there I've showed you two options. You can do it either way. Because this one was trimmed out, I decided I wanted to trim this one to match the other side. I'm going to use that same yellow ribbon, and just this time make a little trim only on the bottom. And trim it off. And there's our little double sign that we can put down in the truck for a little extra something. Use whatever flowers, whatever colors you like, but I really like this combination with this little blue truck. So now you see me doing what I do in all of my floral arrangements. I'm looking side to side to see what else I need, and I decided that we could put a little farm fresh sign on the truck. So I'm just taking a piece off of another one of these little calendar pictures, and I'm just going to use the farm fresh off of the Christmas sign, trimming it down, and we're going to put this on our truck. You do have options. You could put it across the back of the truck here on the tailgate if you would like. You could put it on the front of the truck, or you could put it on one of the doors, and that's what I decided to do here, kind of on the door and going toward the back of the truck. And this is what it looks like, and can you see what I see? It needed another flower. That's why we look at all angles. Now isn't that better? Much better. This would be really cute on a tiered tray. If you like doing tiered trays, it would be nice on a desk because it's small and compact. It would be a nice little pick-me-up for a friend or a loved one. It's just a precious little truck. You like it? Next project, we're going to be using another Dollar Tree calendar picture. And this is actually the front of this calendar. And I believe this is a 2022. Yes. I'm also going to use some of these little wooden shingles. I'm going to use some of these thrifted picks and thrifted flowers. And this is a thrifted cutting board. One side is stained and the other side is kind of blank. I'm going to start by, I know I want to use this front page of this calendar, which is thicker, and I like that. I'm glad. I'm going to go ahead and cut this off. Generally, when you see thankful, grateful, and blessed, that's something that is used during the fall. But I think that every day we should be thankful and grateful and feel blessed, because we are every single day. And I love the colors in this beautiful print. I love it. You know, I'm using peaches and creams and things like that in my home. And I think that this just fits really well into, you know, what I like in my particular style. So I'm going to take my little glue stick and put it down. And then I'm going to take this little squeegee from Mod Podge. From the Plaid companies where I got it from, but it's Mod Podge squeegee. And just press it down, make sure there's no bubbles. There's a little overlap here, and that is totally fine because I'm going to use my little handy sander here, and this comes from the Dollar Tree. And I'm just going to brush this away at a little angle on the side, and this is going to give it a nice, crisp, clean finish. And it'll make it look like it is designed to be here all along. You won't be able to see an edge, you won't be able to see where it meets. It'll just be perfectly clean and straight. Do the same thing to the other side, and now we're going to trim it out. Thankfully, the print has a stripe on it, so you can actually see where you would want to follow a line, and you can use that as a line to put down your pieces if you would like. But in a minute, I will show you an alternative so that if you don't trust your eyes or your fingers, you can actually put these down and make sure that they are exactly straight where you want them to be. You can use wood glue or regular glue, whatever you have. For video purposes, it's easier for me to grab the glue gun because it works quicker. So now my piece down here is longer than it needs to be, so I'm just going to trim it off. I got these pieces in a big bag from the thrift store. You can use Jenga blocks for this if you would like, or you can use popsicle sticks to trim yours out, or you don't have to trim it out at all. Looks pretty just the same. So you can use a ruler and some clamps to make a straight line if you need to have a little more reassurance. If you don't trust yourself to make a straight line, then you can just put your glue on and line these up. So once we have the top and the bottom done, this is how it looks so far. Beautiful as it is, right? You could leave it alone if you wanted, but I want to try to make a little swag piece to go on top that matches the florals that are on the print. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just I wanted to show you my thought process. I'm looking at the colors of the leaves. I'm looking at everything that's going on. What can we pick apart? What can we put together? And kind of getting a layout to how I think I want things to fit, how big I want them to be, and where I want them to go. And I'm just kind of manipulating the petals. Some of the petals on the flower were flipped over, and you can just flip those back, make them look nice and pretty. Then I'm going to use some floral wire to attach most of these pieces together. I'm going to grab it up in the middle, wrap that around there. You see pieces fall out, not a problem. Pick it up, put it back in, and then twist it around. If you're not comfortable using the wire, because you got to be careful now, it will poke your fingers. I have bloodied my fingertips before, a little sticking with that. You could always use a pipe cleaner here, or you could always use a zip tie. Whatever you're comfortable with, go ahead and use that. Now I made a little sneaky way to hold this on without using particularly glue on the front of the board. That way I could reuse it if I want to. See, here's the stained up backside. I'm taking this little piece of it's like a very firm plastic tip, and the wire that is used in there that is wrapped around, I'm going to pull it out just a little bit through that hole, put this piece of pick down here, and it's going to hold it tightly, and then hot glue one of those little tabs right over it. Now it won't move. It is there now. And one more flower right in the middle. Now I'm going to start building outward a little bit. I've taken another pick apart, that first pick that I showed, and I'm just going to add these beautiful leaves in here because I like the shape and the variety that gives. Just like in the picture, there are different kinds of vegetation in there, and that's what I want to reflect in my little swag on the top. So some eucalyptus here and there. You know, again, this is cottagey. I want it to have that cottage feel. I want it to be nice and earthy and rustic and cottagey. So that's what this one looks like. Here is the truck. He's so sweet. I love doing little floral arrangements in these little bitty trucks and pieces from Dollar Tree. Here is our calendar sign. I've made one. So I found this little shovel, and it had some other things on it which I've taken off already. And I'm going to give it a little makeover. It's approximately 16 or 17 inches long. You can use the little shovels at the Dollar Tree. If they have started putting out their summer stuff yet, you can definitely use something like that. But if you decide to use something thrifted, I'm going to show you how we can take it apart and fix it up. Mine happens to have 2 screws that are holding the shovel head onto the wooden handle. So I'm just going to undo them and remove them. There was no glue there. And I am going to cover up the holes that are in the handle. I'm just using some of this lightweight spackling that is from the Dollar Tree. Very easy to use, or should I say the $1.25 tree. I'm just going to go over all those little holes. If you have any cracks or problems with your shovel, you can go ahead and fill those in, let it dry, and then sand it off so that you don't, you know, have bumps and stuff. You'll have a good smooth surface to work with. Alright, so I'm going to take a warmer green paint and cover up this bluish paint. I prefer warmer colors, so no matter what time of year, I'm always going to go toward the warmer tones. For me personally, that is. So I'm just going to take this chalk paint and go all over here. I only used 1 coat. Be sure that you get the areas that you don't necessarily see. So I'm going where it was loose from the handle and the stick part of the shovel. It was loose, so I went ahead and took it apart, sanded it down, and I'm putting a little glue there. And then protect your eyes and nose because there's some rust on here, and you can sand this off. Go ahead and start sanding it. Now, the reason I did this is because the paint is raised and I wanted to make it kind of disappear. After I've wiped it down with the baby wipe and gotten all that stuff off of it, I'm going to cover it with this, I think this is elephant gray or a medium gray chalk paint. I didn't want to do the galvanized look, and I think that this will be absolutely fine. My shovel was gray when I got it. So it's going to take 2 coats for me on this to get it to cover up completely, and I've done it kind of thickly and let it dry completely in between. I'm going to use wood glue to reattach the handle to the pole part. And when you use wood glue, you can go ahead and use some type of a stick or whatever to make sure that you cover all your surfaces on the inside so it doesn't come off. That's what I'm doing. I've got to be sure to line this up correctly so that I have my stem part of the handle right in the center, because we have to put this back on, right? Now I don't want to have a spotless shovel, so we're going to use a little bit of this antiquing wax to go over all of the edges and the sides of this shovel head. I'm just making it look like it would have been dirty, it would have been rusty, it would have been well loved. So I'm making it look like that by using antiquing wax. I mean, it is antiquing wax, so we're going to make it appear old. I don't want to have a bunch of brush strokes in there, so I'm just taking an old sock that I have and I'm just wiping it back some. I'm going to make sure that I line the holes up correctly with the shovel head and push it straight into there. And then I'll be able to reattach my screws to hold it in place. Alright, so I am going to, of course, rust the screws also. We're going to make those look rusty and old. And then also where it attaches to the, I guess I'm going to say handle. I think I've called that stick part a billion things. What do you call it? Alright, I'm going to keep going around, going to make it look like it's been used, like dirty hands have touched it. And what do you think? I think I achieved that look. Now we're going to put some flowers on it. All of these pieces are thrifted. I'm going to take all of these little pieces and bits and make a pretty little arrangement. I kept you girls in mind when I made this arrangement because that is a lavender or a purplish colored bundle of flowers that we're going to use for this arrangement. Your opinion does matter to me, so be sure to leave me a comment. What do you think about these DIYs? I'd love a thumbs up if you're enjoying the video. I'm just going to go ahead and stack these together in any way that I think they would look great. In any way I think that they would look balanced, but of course maintaining the cottage style. So we don't have a pattern here. I'm just kind of poking things here and there, moving it around until I get it where I like it. And I'm just holding the base of it so that I can add my pieces together, and it's going to form somewhat of a swag. So you have some going downward, some going upward, and they meet in the middle. I'm making sure that I get all of my pieces of stem in there, and I'm going to use a zip tie to hold this together. This is the easiest way to do this rather than using floral wire. Everything would start to fall apart if you were trying to twist that end together. So now everything is tightly together. I have the opportunity to move some things around and get them where I think they look nice. I do this all the time, and I do this constantly when I'm creating. Look how nicely that fits on the shovel. So I want the biggest part to face the head of the shovel, and I'm going to use another zip tie to fasten it to the handle. Easy, easy, right? You can use flower scraps for this. Absolutely use your scraps. So this is some thrifted ribbon that I have, and I got this the same time that I got the plaid that we used in our first arrangement or our first wreath. Just some examples of other ribbons that you can use, but I will be using this one from Dollar Tree. I'm going to cut one 8-inch piece, 18-inch piece, and then I'm going to cut two of this little, it's actually like it's a picket fence, like a garden scene with some flowers growing up beside it, almost like morning glories. It's really pretty. I'll be sad when it's all gone. Okay, so this is the bow that we're going to make. Very simple. You could see what I was doing there. If you missed it while I was running my mouth, no worries, because I'm going to show you how to do it again on the next ribbon. Now this one's wired, but these are not. However, it's a very good quality ribbon, and it is going to hold its shape without collapsing, and I love that. You can see how we're making the ribbon now, how I'm adjusting it, and how long the tails are is going to definitely correlate with how big the loops are on the top. The idea is to make these loops a little bit smaller than what's on the burlap behind it, and then on the next bow that we do, it's going to be even smaller. So this is like a stacked bow. Very easy to use if you like somewhat of a bulky bow, but you just don't have maybe the skills that you are comfortable with in making a bigger bow. So you'll see momentarily that you're going to get a nice impact from this bow. It's super easy to make. This time, I'm just going to use some jute. Okay, so now we're going to fluff the bow. I have small hands, and it makes it convenient when I am fluffing the bows, because I can just put my finger down in the loops of even the smaller bows and pull those out and twist them around to get them in the shape that I like. Use your fingers and do the best you can. So you can see how big and pretty this bow looks. I mean, you know, it's in a smaller scale, but how big and pretty it will be for the project that it's on. I don't know why my camera went yellow there, y'all. Excuse that. I'm not sure what happened. Everything looks kind of sickly. Okay, now back to normal. I'm going to put the bow on, flip it over, because when we hang this, we want the shovel head to be downward and handle to be upward. That's why I put the bow on in this direction. Cut that off. You can use a little hot glue if you're worried about it moving, but I assure you the flowers are going to hold it in place. And this is how it is going to look. Do the same thing that I tell you on every project. Look at it from all sides. Fluff that bow, move the tails around, trim where you need to trim. And then if you see any gaps, by all means, feel free to go ahead and fill that in with a little something. Look at that. Isn't it pretty? We still need a way to hang it, unless you're going to hang it off of the handle, which I don't really recommend. So I'm going to take some more of that jute and make a simple hanger. You can see how I'm doing it here. Make a loop, wrap the ends around, tie it, slip the knot down, and then you have a loop. All you have to do is trim off the tails to whatever length you like, And then we're going to add it to the handle part of this beautiful little arrangement. Protect your fingers, of course. And then when you turn it over, look at that. Isn't it cute? I'm going to use this magazine rack. I love the bones of it. I love this texture on the side, these little panels. We're going to plug these off, so don't worry about it. They did come from the thrift store without any plugs, but I happen to have found at a different time some wood plugs. How about that? You never know what you might find in the thrift store. I've hammered those in. We're not worried about the little dented areas because we're going to fix it. I'm going to take my matte Mod Podge and then give it 2 good coats outside. Once it is completely dry, I'm going to bring it in and start laying on the paint. Now this is a dark wine colored paint, and even with chalk paint, which is pretty thick, it took some work. You can see here that you can still see through it, but you're going to keep going. We're going to persevere. We're going to keep pushing on. Cover everything, bottom, top, sides, legs, the spindles, handle, and then 3 coats later, here's that beautiful rack, and gonna look beautiful in my room. Wait to the end of the video when you see how I've styled it. All of these turned out really cute. I love this. I'm gonna take this cute little bonnet, this little straw hat. I've been trying to collect these to hang on my wall. This one had some damage though. It was missing its band, but that's all right, because if you know me, you knew I was probably gonna take it off anyway. I'm just gonna use some of this thinner linen and cotton blend ribbon. You can use Dollar Tree decorative ribbon, you can use Easter ribbon, you can use jute cord here, you could use rope or nautical rope. But I just love this cream colored neutral linen ribbon, so I'm going to use it to create a new hat band. Now the hat top is tapered, so your ribbon is not going to lay completely flat. Do not let that bother you, because I'm going to show you how to fix it. So once it is down, I'm going to take a ribbon that came off of another project that I did. I'll leave the link to that video in the description box below so that you can make it if you like it. I'm just going to repurpose this, and I'm going to put it right on this hat. And it's the perfect little cute addition to this hat. Isn't that very Pollyanna? I just love it. Okay, so here's what you do. You're going to go up to the top where you don't have your glue. You're going to snip it. Take a little bit of hot glue and then overlap that little snip. That's going to make a little pleat or a little area where your ribbon is going to overlap slightly. It won't be noticed, and it's going to give you a better fit against the top of that hat, or the crown of the hat, whatever you want to call it. And you can just continue around your hat and do this wherever you feel like you need to do it. I'm not going to sweat it. I'm not going to do too much here. All right. So here we are with the before and the after of our hat. So somehow or another my footage got kind of messed around here, but bear with me. We're going to take this foam board and cut it to fit this 5x7 frame. This is a little bit of a shadow box frame. Back was broke on it. I got it from Goodwill, but I knew that the finish on it would be perfect for spring or summer usage. And then you can use your scissors or you can use a knife, whatever you want to use, to cut this down so that it will fit very snugly in the back, because we don't want it to press all the way through. Okay, so there's the frame I was telling you about. I love this frame. I have no idea where it originally came from, but for me it came from Goodwill, as well as that cream colored burlap, this flower pick, this ribbon. In fact, the only thing that I use that didn't come from Goodwill would be the foam backing and this little sign that I got on clearance at Hobby Lobby last year. So I'm going to cover my piece of foam in this burlap. I'm going to trim it off so I have about an inch extra for the thickness of this foam board. I need to be able to fold this over and glue it down. Be sure if there's a part that you're using that has the tag on it, that the tag is on the back side and not against the burlap, because you will see that through the burlap. So I'm just going to pull a little bit over and press it down into that glue. They work good for these thinner surfaces. Okay, so I'm just trimming off that line because it would drive me crazy not to. And I'm going to kind of turn that corner in and then press it up. That way there's no bulk hanging out on the side. Just kind of turn the corner in, press it down. Okay, folding that one in too, pressing it down, and then holding it. You don't have to use the clamps. If it looks like it's going to stay for you, that's fine, but the fabric is a little on the thicker side. So I've found in my experience that it needs a little more help to stay where it needs to until the glue has a chance to grab it. Now you see this is not dirty. This is part of the burlap. It's just a darker fiber that's in there, and I'm trying to scratch it out. I'm trying to get it out. I did not pay attention when I cut it, so yeah, but that's okay because we're going to cover it up. So I'm going to take my hot glue, put a good amount on the back of this plaque, and then place it down. I bought 3 of these last year. I think they were 70, 80, or 90% off, but I knew I'd want to use them again. And it just so happens that the details on the bunny match the colors in the frame perfectly. So you can see here that this sets on the top of the outside. I don't want to have it completely down in there so that it is pressed against the front of the frame. So I'm just going to support the back with some strips of I think this was poster paper, yeah. Some scraps of poster paper that I had and some hot glue just to hold it where it is, keep it from slipping all the way down. Don't worry about how it looks right now because that will be covered. Here's some felt sheet, some felt backing. And I am just going to cut that down because that's going to cover up the back and give us a little more of a finished look. This is a pretty thick felt too. This is almost as thick as the foam board, so it's really nice. Before we do that, I'm going to sandwich in my little hanger. And this is what I do with a piece of jute. Just make a simple little tie in there. And then I'm going to slip it through the original hanger that's on the back. And this should give it all the strength that it needs to stay. Going to go in with some glue here and just really get kind of thick with the application, and then press this down on the back. Grab some clamps to hold it down, and then once it is set up you can remove your clamps, and this is what we have so far. Now because the hanger originally had a wire in the top, there are holes there. These are not holes that I was interested in spackling or using wood filler or anything, because I knew that I would be able to trim it out and give it more of a shabby chic look if I added a little bit of that antique decorative ribbon. You can get decorative ribbon at any craft store, but there's something about these old ribbons that I love. I'm going to trim that off a little bit just using manicure scissors. I don't have detailing scissors, but these work perfectly for me. And now we're going to work on a pretty little bow to go on the top. This is a little bit out of focus, but it's actually like a peachy color. It's really a nice little ribbon. And it's pretty thick with the 2 layers, with the ribbon in the back and then the lace on the top. It's pretty thick, so it kind of holds its own there. Now all I'm doing is making 6 loops on each side to make the bow part, the top part of the bow. I'm going to use a little piece of jute scrap here. If you save those little pieces of burlap that come out when you're doing your projects, those little strips that always come out, you can use those again for things like this, just little scraps to tie things off. Put 2 or 3 knots in there because we're going to be pulling on this bow, and you want to be sure that that knot does not come out, or you'll have to start all over. I made this a small bow and just a simple bow because I like the simplicity, and I want the main focus really to be on that gorgeous little bunny in the center. I'm going to cover up the center with just a little piece of that same ribbon. Don't leave your little tails poking out. You want to get that nice and clean looking. It's almost like putting on those finger protectors. It's like putting a band-aid on, so then you favor that finger and you don't want to use it because you feel like you got a bobo on it. Well, that's kind of what I think my left hand is thinking. Okay, it has a mind of its own. So now we need some tails for that pretty ribbon, for the pretty bow, and I'm just going to cut 4 little strips and cut them at a slant. So this is the pattern that I like, and we're going to try this and just see, and you just give me, I'm always trying to do something a little bit different. I don't want everything that I make to look exactly the same, and I want to challenge you to be creative and try your own things. Remember, there's really no right or wrong to crafting. It's your own creativity. It's what you love, what brings you joy. I say it all the time, joy, joy, joy. It's all about that. It's about happiness and doing what makes you happy. So this is what we have so far. And I think it looks good. Now I'm just trimming down some of the remnants here from that little bouquet of roses that I had. I just picked it apart and I'm just using, you know, what there is left. Picking the parts that will actually fit and not obscure the view from the little bunny, because I don't want that to happen. I don't want the flowers to become, you know, the attention grabber here. I'm going to take some of the little rosebuds and place them around. I always want to leave in sort of my thought process instead of giving you a completely edited, start to finish, quickly hammer it out kind of video, because I want you to see how I'm thinking, what I'm thinking about when I'm crafting, what brings me inspiration and what looks good to me, and how you can move things around before you glue it. You know, move it around, see where you might like it first, what it looks like to you, and then, you know, for me, I want to give you inspiration and you decide what looks best for you, and then you take that idea and do your own thing. You know, that's, my channel is making it my own because I want you to make things your own, not cookie cutter of what somebody else does, you know? So when you have a foliage pick, be sure that you realize that they're plastic pieces or fabric pieces, and you can trim those down. If you need something to lay flat, just trim off one side that's going to be against the flat surface, kind of like I did on the bottom there, and just press it in and see it fits nicely now. And you'll never know because you can't see the back of it. I'm going to add a little greenery to this side too. And then again, I'm thinking, where do I want to put this other piece? And I'm going to add it, just that piece, right to the top of that bow. And that you would definitely pay a lot of money for an item like this. It's dimensional, and it's the perfect colors for spring. Fabric from Dollar Tree. Here is that box of mushrooms I was telling you about. Got a bunch of them. And they happen to be the red that is in the fabric, so I love that. I'm going to take some Italian olive spray paint, and I'm going to spray paint these two oval frames, not round. And it happens to match the green that is in the fabric. And I'm going to take some leaves, but not these. I'm going to use the ones I used before. I'm going to give it 3 coats of paint, and then once it's completely dry, this is what they'll look like. Now they're pulling a little more blue than I care for, so we're going to fix that, no worries. Just pointing out that we need to spray paint the inside too, because you will be able to see onto the inside. You don't have to do the back part though. That's going to be glued together and you won't see it. I'm going to take my fabric and lay it down and just place the other one on top of it so I can see exactly how much I need to cut out so I don't waste any fabric. That way I still have a good piece of this fabric left if I want to create something else with it. Now you could call this cottagecore or grannycore, whatever you would like to call it, but I think it is very unique and different. I've never seen it done, so I wanted to share it with you. This might not be your cup of tea, and that is totally fine, but just get the inspiration from it. That's what I want to bring you, is inspiration. So I'm going to use some hot glue and quickly work around here, pressing this fabric down to make sure that it stays in place. And as I add the glue, I'm going to pull it so that we don't have any wrinkles, but I'm not going to pull hard, I'm just going to press and pull outward slightly so that we don't have any slack in the fabric. We want it to be nice and tight. So that's what I'm doing here. I know it's hard to see because it's such a busy fabric on there. And by all means, if you don't want to use the fabric, grab some burlap. You can use some crafting paper. You can use some scrapbook paper here. Whichever way you decide that you want to do it. I'm going to continue along until I have this glued down on all the edges, and it's nice and taut so that it doesn't have any give. That's the way it needs to be. I'm going to take my scissors, lay them sideways. I found that using a smaller pair works easiest for me, and these are just little Arteza scissors that I love. And I'm just going to keep going around and around and around and around until I trim off all the excess fabric. So you can see I have little bits here and there that would go outside. Trim those off. Then I'm going to take my other frame, quickly with my hot glue in just a few places so that it doesn't get cold. We want it to stick. Then I'm going to place that top one down on top of it and then kind of slide it into place, and I'm using my hands to make sure that it is pressed down exactly where it needs to be so it's mirrored to the other frame, and then squeeze it together all the way around. Now our fabric is locked in between those two pieces. I'm going to grab my antiquing wax and a chippy brush. I'm going to protect my fabric on the inside because at this point that's when I was saying no, that's a little too bluish. It needs to be a little darker. It needs to be a little browner, a little warmer. So I just use a towel, tuck that on the inside to protect my fabric so I don't make a mess on it. And I'm just going to go around the cracks and these seams all over the front of this frame. You could do the back as well if you wanted to, but I didn't feel the need to do that. I'm going to give you an option to hang this or to stand it, so be sure that you stay tuned so you can see that. But I'm not going to be seeing the back of mine, so I'm not going to bother with that. So you're going to continue around and just get it as heavy as you would like to get it. I like to start off with a light amount and then build up so that I don't get too much wax on there and waste it. So that's what you see me doing. I'm just going to tap out a little bit and then go back over the little cracks in the frame, or I'm saying cracks, but it's actually between the elevations in the frame. And then I'm also going to get on the inside, and so this is where that towel comes in handy on the inside. It's going to keep it nice and clean and it won't get messy. And if you use a different color, you don't have to worry about doing this step at all. But I like the look of it. I think it really adds something to it. The color is definitely different with the wax. All right, so now I am going to grow some mushrooms in my frame. I've already chosen 3, and I have one. Each one is a little different than the other, and size-wise as well. So I'm going to start off with the tallest one and put it toward the right side. Then I'm going to add the medium one in the middle, and then the little baby mushroom is going to be toward the center of the frame or the bottom of the row. Just like that. You could add more moss in there if you wanted to, but I was just done with the mess. I had already cleaned it up and did not want to get it back out. So using the same leaves that we used before, I'm just going to, that's what I usually do, is kind of give each little stack, each color, kind of vary the colors. And I'm just going to do that here. And again, I like to go off of the colors that I already have going on there. This is such a busy looking background. It is, it's a lot. It's a lot, y'all. It's a lot. And then I'm going to add some more over here. And then you can just glue each one of them. I mean, this seems like silly for me to tell you this, but some people need to know. You can glue them one at a time, or you can glue the stack together and apply your stack. Whatever's easiest for you, you do it that way. Not all of us have good dexterity. Some of us have carpal tunnel, some of us have arthritis, some of us have vision problems. So whatever we can do to make it easier for one another so that we can all encourage each other to find joy in crafting is be supportive of each other. Okay, so rather than put a bow here, which I had kind of played around with, I decided why not just use a little mushroom right in the middle. And I'm so glad I did it because this is just cute as it can be. Now I'm just going to take that same brush, I didn't add any more wax to it, and just kind of go over my leaves to kind of brown them down a little bit, kind of take some of that bright orange out. And I think this is a cute idea, y'all. Now you can stand it up by putting some blocks on the back to make it stand, or you can take a little tie. This is one I already had. You just loop it over on itself, tie a knot in the middle, and then toward the middle of your frame you want to add your we're going to do mushroom arrangement in a little picnic basket. So we're going to use some floral wire, we're going to use some thrifted greenery, some wood shreds, we're going to use some of these little thrifted plastic old crusty mushrooms. This is a piece of foam that came off of something else that I just saved. And here is a mini picnic basket. It's not the cutest thing. It came from the thrift store. It's not perfect, but it's perfect for me. These are some vines that dried in my yard that I pulled down and clipped off. I've had them for about a year and I've used them in several arrangements. Just gonna get the dust off of here, and I'm going to wire the base. Why are we wiring the base? Because we need something to hold our foam down. I don't want to ruin this basket. I want to have the ability to use it over again. So I'm just going to use my wires, push up through the bottom, give it enough space in there so that I can lay my foam down, and it will hold my foam. Just going to pull it, lay it out. Going to do the same thing for the other side. Put my foam in here, wrap it around. You can cut your wire if you want. You can trim it down, or you can just do like I did, twist it firmly down and then press it down. It's not going to be in the way. Same thing on this side. And then you can see here, it is very securely in place. Alright, so now we're going to put this, I can't even call it raffia, it's wood. It's like wood shavings. I don't know any other way to explain it. But this is going to be the base and help cover up our foam. It's going to look more natural on the bottom. I'm pushing my greenery up a tad so that I can start trimming it off. And then I'm going to go down between my branches and cut these into shorter pieces. And look at that. They look like they came that way. You can't tell. If you're careful about where you cut it, you can fix it to make it look as though it was actually meant to be two pieces. Then we're going to have to find a way to get these mushrooms to attach. So I think a pick in the bottom from another arrangement would work. Excuse my out of focusness here. We're going to do that to each one of those mushrooms and let them cool and dry. And while they're doing that, we're going to start putting down our picks in the basket. I've just went ahead and went to the corners and on the outsides to hold down this base of this shred that I have here. After I get those placed around, I'll start adding some mushrooms here and there. Mushrooms generally, similar mushrooms can grow in like a fairy circle. If you've ever seen those are really pretty, and they really, I don't know, it's something to look at. It's interesting how they come up and why they come up. If you've never heard of a fairy circle, you should look that up. Place those down. I've bunched those in the corner together like they're sitting on a puddle of fresh rain. And then I've put another type of pick in here. These are dried, or they appear dried. They're not actually dried. These are also thrifted, and I've had those for years. I've used them in so many arrangements for late summer and fall. Just love them. We're going to keep pressing these down. Pull those mushrooms back up if they start looking like they're too sunken, just like we're going to do with this one that has the little green bits on it. Pull that back up just a tad. Like I always say, just like I said with the other one, Turn it from side to side, look at it from all angles. Make sure it's how you want it to be, how you imagine it to be. Now I'm going to go back in here with these little curly, wispy pieces, and I'm going to add them here and there. I think they just they add to the whimsy. And I'm going to add in any little extra picks that I have to fill in any bare spots. Try to keep the taller ones on the top parts and the smaller ones on near the outside of the basket. Simple enough, right? And you can get these dried vines out of your yard. You could probably buy them actually from a craft store if you wanted to. You just look for those probably in the fall and get something similar to that. Now I'm going to cut a couple of pieces of this same wire so that I can hold the back of the basket up. I'm just going to make a little fish hook, weave it through this little section here, and then twist it around. Then I'm going to push it through a section on the side and twist it around. See, I'm just kind of going through that weave, pulling it and twisting it around the wire that's already there. That's going to give it a little hinge almost so that the lid doesn't fall backwards. It'll stay upright. Going to do the same thing here. Twist it around there. Then you're gonna, after you get that twisted securely, you're gonna just go down to the bottom, same thing, feed it through the side, and then I just wound it, the leftovers in the back underneath. If anything falls off, not a big deal, a little bit of glue, stick it back on.